Welcome guys, gals, and pals. My name is Brooke, and this is Brooke Beams Big, where I share my expressions of joy. So once upon a time, I made booktube videos on another YouTube channel pre-pandemic. And lately, I have really been wanting to return to YouTube, to social media, to content creation. I'm still figuring out exactly what kinds of video, what kinds of content I want to make, but I know that I want to focus on what brings me joy, what brings me happiness, what makes me smile. And that definitely includes booktube, even though it's not everything. So it's February, which means it's Black History Month and it's Valentine's Day, the month of love. Usually I would love to have already pre-planned some great projects around these themes. I love to do themed reading projects, but I haven't gotten that deep into content planning yet, and I need to get used to talking to the camera again, honestly, because I have just restarted this vlog like 20 times. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but only a little bit. So I decided on something kind of chill that fit both of those themes, and that is reading romances written by Black authors. Now I want to point out that it is always important to read diversely, not just during cultural awareness months. And I do really strive for that diversity in what I read. But I also think it's great and fun to promote authors from the cultures that those months are bringing awareness to during those months. So I went to the library earlier today and picked up some books that I put on hold. So first I have Talia Hibbert's whole series, which includes Get a Life Chloe Brown, Take a Hint Dani Brown, and Act Your Age Eve Brown. Now I remember when Get a Life Chloe Brown came out and everyone was saying how good it was, and it did sound so good and fun to me, and I've just never gotten to it. And now there's a whole series and I can read the whole thing, and that's gonna be so fun. Now I'll admit I had kind of forgotten what Get a Life Chloe Brown was about, so I reread the summary on the back of the book before I got on here so I could tell y'all about it. So Chloe has some health issues, and she's recently had a big scare where she almost died. And she's a girl who likes goals, who likes lists. We love it. And so she has made herself a bucket list of things to help her get a life. And she enlists the love interest, whose name is Redford Red, or Red, to help her achieve those goals. And he is this sort of bad boy type, but he's also an artist. I love our very strategically minded to-do list type folks, but I also love our artists, and I think this pair is going to be great, and so I'm so excited to get into this one. Then I picked up A Princess in Theory by Alyssa Cole, which is the first book in the Reluctant Royal series, which I believe is 3 full novels and 2 novellas. This is another one that I remember when it came out, everyone was so hyped about it, and I thought it sounded really good, and I've just never picked it up, and now there's a whole series. I would like to read this whole series as well, however my library only had the first book in a physical format. I believe they did have the rest of them in either ebook or audiobook format. I am very much a physical reader, preferably, so I thought I would read the first one. If I do really like it, and when I continue the series, I will either choose to purchase the rest of them or just say to hell with it and read the ebook. I again reread the summary of this one before we started, and it is the story of our main character, whose name is Naledi, who is living her normal life. She's getting these spam emails that I think are pretty common from an African prince claiming that she's his princess. And as most people do, she deletes them as spam, but it's actually true in this case. And she ends up meeting the love interest, the BCO, and she doesn't know that this is the person who's been sending her emails, that he is in fact a prince, and he takes that opportunity to get to know her and get in a relationship with her. So there is definitely some secretive tension in this book, and not only do I like the premise, I am a sucker for books where you know things and you're just waiting for the secrets to be revealed. That will keep me on the edge of my seat forever. Okay, just waiting for that person to find out and see how they're gonna react. So I'm very excited to read this one. Now, I should also say that this is not going to be just one themed vlog. While there is a theme to my reading list, romances written by Black authors with Black characters, I am putting a time limit on it. So I want to vlog for a week and then cut it off, edit it, and post it. So there are two main reasons for that. One of them is that in the past couple of years, I have read mostly comics and graphic novels. That's what this shelf is right here. I am out of practice at reading prose, so I'm a little slow at it. One of my goals for this year is to get back into it because there's a lot of great stories there that I still want to read. But I don't want to rush myself, and I don't want to have that pressure. I want it to be fun. I want to enjoy these books. So I don't want to rush to try to get them all into one video. Number two is that I'm out of practice with YouTube, and I need to get back into that routine of getting out the camera on a regular basis, of being able to talk to the camera without restarting a bajillion times, of finishing a video and editing it and posting it. I need to get back into those routines, and I think that giving myself this 1 week time frame in which I'm just gonna cut it off then and then I'll keep going will really help. And having multiple videos will help me feel more accomplished, and that will be more motivating. And it'll give me less time to second guess myself than if I filmed one big long vlog over a longer period of time. I know this because I filmed a festive holiday vlog where I read a whole bunch of Nutcracker retellings. And you may have still see it. I am undecided, but it's taken me so long to make it, to put it all together, that now I'm worried it's too late and maybe it's not perfect the way I wanted it to be. And I'm trying to have fun here, y'all. I'm not trying to get into my anxious brain. So I think this plan is gonna work a lot better for me, and it's really gonna help me get warmed up, get started, so that I can make the kinds of content that I want to make in the future. I may also incorporate some other aspects of my life in here because, again, my channel's theme is stuff that brings me joy. And if I have something that I want to share, I'm just gonna share it. And I think having these time sections will also allow for that. So now, speaking of other areas of my life, I am going to decorate my planner for this week for Valentine's Day, and then I am gonna get started on one of these. Probably get a life Chloe Brown, since I already have this whole series, and I'm so excited for that, and I'm so excited to share it with you. See you soon! Happy Valentine's Day, friends! I'm wearing my Valentine's outfit. I'm very excited about it. I think it's so cute. But I'm on here to talk about Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I am on page 154, so not quite halfway, but close. I could not stop reading last night, y'all. My plan was to just, read the first few chapters so I could get on and tell y'all that I started and tell you my initial thoughts. But I just read until I couldn't read no more. I am so sucked into this. The writing style is great. It feels like, well, I won't say that it's like watching a movie in my head because I don't have visualization going on in here, but it's got that feeling that I get when I'm like really sucked into a TV show, that like this is just the world I'm living in and we're having a great time. So I had a couple of expectations that got adjusted while I was reading. I assumed that Chloe and Red had a fairly cordial relationship, not quite friendship, but that, they were acquaintances and they knew each other. No, at the beginning of this book, they really don't like each other. I won't say hate, I won't say it's enemies to lovers, it's not that strong, but they don't like each other very much. Their personalities, they don't click, except when they find out they do. This is told in both of their perspectives, which I like, and I like that even though it's limited third person for both of them, there's a distinct feeling of difference. There's distinct voices for both of them. I think that's really important. I love it. So I want to say with Chloe, I think I implied in my last clip that her near-death experience was related to her health because I thought that's what the back of the book was implying. That's not true, completely unrelated. She does have chronic pain, fibromyalgia, but her near-death experience doesn't have to do with that. I think that's important to note. I do think it's very apt that I started this vlog with me working in my planner because our girl Chloe, she loves planners, she loves notebooks. I feel it so hard, it's relatable. But I do think it's very interesting, the conversation about how that planning helps her because of her health, because of how her health affects the way that her brain functions sometimes, which I think is a really unique perspective on it. Like, we all get overwhelmed with the things that we have to do, but when your brain is clouded by pain and brain fog and those kinds of things, it can be even more important and more helpful. I thought those connections were really interesting. With Red, I will admit, I never plan to connect to the male love interest as much, especially because since the book is named after her, I wasn't really going into this like focused on him, but I'm really enjoying some of the things that his storyline has. We'll start with his art. I knew he was an artist going in. I think I mentioned that in the first clip, but I love the discussion that we're having about how your art changes as you change as a person, as your life experiences build and contribute to your art, how that can change your style or the subject of your art, and how that can be difficult to grapple with when you're already dealing with this change and you're seeing it really reflected in something that you are creating that is like an extension of yourself. He has that going on. He also has a storyline, which there is an author's note at the beginning of the book that when I read it really touched me, and I'm just going to read it because it's just a couple sentences. This story touches on the process of healing after an abusive relationship. If this is a topic that you're sensitive to, please be aware. I hope I have treated the issue, my characters, and you, the reader, gently. When I read that, I knew this book was going to be great. I knew I was going to love it. As someone who's been in a toxic relationship before, the process after that and how that experience applies to new relationships, it's a whole deal. And I love how the author really gently says, hey, just so you know, it's there, and I hope that I've handled it with care. And that meant a lot to me. And we haven't seen a ton of that backstory yet. There has been lots of little hints and how it's affected Reed and how he's viewing the world right now and how his life is going. But I don't know if excited is the right word for it, but I definitely have a lot of interest in how that storyline is going to go and how it's going to affect their relationship. I'm definitely excited to keep reading this. If I could have had the stamina last night, I would have read the whole thing. So, Valentine's Day plans. I'm excited. We're not doing anything super big, but my partner and I are having a little celebration tonight after he gets off work. So I'm about to go to the store and pick up things so we can make charcuterie boards. And I want us to make chocolate dipped strawberries and pretzels because I've been really into that lately and it sounds very fun and festive. So I might take y'all along with me for some short clips of that and show you guys us putting that together later. And maybe I'll get some more reading time in depending on how everything goes, and I'll be back with more updates about that soon. I don't remember if I said exactly what we were doing earlier, but we are going to be making chocolate dipped strawberries and pretzels. We're going to do that first so they have time to like harden before we eat them. And then we're going to cut up all the stuff for this charcuterie board. We're back again, friends, in Batman pajamas that I stole from my boyfriend. So today is Friday, February 17th, which means it's been a couple days since you've seen me, but on Wednesday I finished Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Now I know I talked about how much I was enjoying this book at the midway point, and that did carry all the way through to the end. So first and foremost, this book is a romance, and it definitely delivered. After we get that initial dislike to like phase that I talked about before, the couple really hits it off. Something I liked so much about the relationship was the attraction they felt for each other, and not just because it's like spicy, but because it made me feel good. I loved the way that Red talks about Chloe's body. I don't know if Chloe's supposed to be plus size necessarily, but she's not super tiny. And I loved the way that he described her curves and the soft parts of her body in a very loving and appreciative way. It made me feel better about myself. Like a lot of people, I have gained a little bit of weight in the past couple of years with the general state of the world and the stress of life. I have been grappling with that personally, and this book really touched a sweet spot for me. I also love how Chloe and Red supported each other. I spoke previously about Red's prior abusive relationship. Chloe also has some past relationship baggage that she is working through, and we really see that come to a head at a certain point in this novel. But I love the way that through reflection and support of each other, they both move past those barriers, those obstacles to their relationship. I really liked that. Another thing that I really enjoyed about this book, and another romance that I have read recently, is the grappling with life changes and going on an inner journey. This may be a common thing in romances, I'm not sure because I haven't read a ton of them, and it would make sense if that was the case, because every story needs an inciting incident, needs a little bit of change to get it going. But I am also personally going through some life changes, going through an inner struggle, an inner journey, and seeing a character work through it and get better really inspires me and gives me hope to keep going. So we have Chloe working through this idea that she's not taking advantage of her life to the fullest, that she's boring and she wants to become better. And then we have Red, who is on this healing journey, but also he's on a journey with his art, he's on a journey with putting his life back together. These are kind of things are all interconnected, but not quite the same. And so I really enjoyed having that in this book. And I hope this sort of inner journey, character growth is going to continue into the series and the other romances I'm going to be reading. It's been a long time since I've rated a book. I don't really have a current system for keeping track of my reading and my reviews. That's something I've got to figure out. So for right now, I'm not going to rate this, but do know that I really, really liked it and I do recommend. So I am now going to pick up the next book in the series, which is Take a Hint, Dani Brown. Dani is Chloe's sister. This is a romance series revolving around sisters, and she's very different from Chloe. You pick that up in Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Chloe's very strategic and very much a planner and has like a certain approach to life, whereas Dani is a little more whimsical and witchy, but she's also an academic. And in this book, she is finishing up her PhD. She's not looking for a serious relationship, but she would like to find a good friend with benefits. And then she encounters our love interest, Zephyr. I wanted to make sure I said that right. Zephyr, when he rescues her during a school fire drill gone wrong. And the video of them goes viral, and he asks her to pretend that they're in a relationship because he supports this sports charity for children and it's really good publicity. So she agrees, thinking that maybe she can convince him to be the friends with benefits that she wants, but of course it's not gonna go quite like that because it's a romance. So I'm really excited to get to this one next after I enjoyed Get a Life, Chloe Brown so much. The yellow is really matching my lounging aesthetic this weekend, and I'm hoping that I am going to get this finished by the end of the weekend so I can finish this vlog off on a high point. Now I wanted to do one more thing in this clip. I have gotten a couple of packages and I thought it would be fun for us to open them together. So this first one, I use Native deodorant. It is a more natural deodorant, aluminum free, and I usually have the basic scent that I get from Walmart or wherever. I think it's coconut and vanilla. It's some sort of vanilla. I love vanilla. But I've been seeing these ads on Instagram for like a new series of scents that they have that they are candy based, and I thought that sounded amazing. I was really intrigued and I needed new deodorant anyway, so I ordered some online, and they have this deal where if you get 3 scents you get a discount, and then plus I had a 20% off coupon from a podcast that I listened to, so I picked these up and I thought we would just kind of smell them together for fun. So I'm gonna smell this one first. This is Tie-Dye Vanilla Cupcake. This is actually not part of the candy shop line. This was left over from their collaboration with Baked by Melissa, but as I said, I love vanilla. Oh, it really smells like cupcakes. That smells good. I'm excited about that one. Then I got Strawberry and Vanilla Taffy because it's the vanilla one. Oh, I pulled the thing off. See, this one smells much sweeter than the other one. But oh my goodness, it smells so good. And it does smell like candy. And then I got one that's gummy bears. because I do enjoy gummy bears and I thought it'd be fun. Okay, yeah, this one's definitely like, that's like sharper sweet without the vanilla. I'm very excited to try these like real bad. I don't get a lot of different scented products. My sense of smell is not that strong, but everybody's got to wear deodorant. Then I have this package from the Happy Planner. I am trying not to, oh, that's a lot of glue. I am trying not to spend that much on stickers right now. I really gotta watch my budget, but I needed a couple of things and I had some rewards built up. So first we have Life is a Party, which is an older sticker book, but it was on sale, and honestly I bought this specifically for these letter stickers. I wanted to use them to put my name in my planner for this year. Of course I will use the rest of this, but that's really why I wanted to pick it up. Then I picked up Essential Dates and Numbers, which is from the last release in the winter. It's just a sticker book full of dating stickers. I needed this because one of the planners I'm using is an old planner, so the dates are not correct, and so I need to redate it, and this was perfect, very basic and simple. This is what I picked up with my rewards. That's everything I have to share for right now. I can't wait to come back on and tell you what I think about Take a Hint Dani Brown, so I'll see you then. Hello everyone. I hope you can hear me good in this clip. I'm trying to be pretty quiet because my partner is sleeping in the other room, but it is Sunday night, February 19th, so I need to finish up this vlog so I can post it on Tuesday. So I did finish Take a Hint Dani Brown this weekend. I'm just flying through these. I'm really liking them. So let's talk about our two protagonists. So first we have Dani, obviously. She was different than I assumed she was from the little like snippets we got of her in Get a Life Chloe Brown. I knew that she was a little witchy and I thought she was a little more whimsical, which those things are both true, but she's also very ambitious. So we know that Dani is working towards her PhD in Get a Life Chloe Brown, but here we really get to see her go at it and see how much she really cares about it, to see what her ambitions really are. Because not only is she trying to get a PhD, she is really someone who wants to have a professional career in academia. She wants to be a tenured professor. I will say that as someone who has a triple degree in English, International Studies, and Women's and Gender Studies, I did really enjoy the snippets of academic life that we got to see. Dani, as a PhD student, teaches literary theory, literary criticism, something like that. And they talked about the Goblin Market, which is a story that I had to read in school, so that was fun. And I like that she's really focused on like feminism and race and gender in these contexts, because that's something that I focused a lot on in school, so I could really get behind it. Then we have our love interest, Zafir or Zaf. Zaf is a former professional rugby player, but he no longer plays rugby because of a tragic accident in which both his father and his brother were killed. Of course, that is gonna be hard no matter what, but it was especially hard for Zaf because he was in the media limelight as a professional rugby player and as one of few Muslims playing rugby professionally at that time, and they just really dogged him and made it a horrible experience for him, and he turned away from rugby professionally because of that. But he does have a children's charity in which he uses rugby along with mental health teachings and emotional workshops to teach boys that they can share their feelings and process their feelings and still be masculine, which I think is amazing. Honestly, I really love the way that we're turning masculinity and talking about mental health in this book with Zaph's storyline. I love it a lot. And I've got to say, Dani and Zaph paired really well together from the get-go. This book is different from Get a Life, Chloe Brown, where Chloe and Red didn't like each other at the beginning and then warmed up to each other over time. At the beginning of this book, Dani and Zaph are already friends. They know each other at work, and they click and they just bounce off each other really well and just take off from there. That does make the vibe and like the tension of their relationship different at the beginning, but I think the fact that they're in a fake relationship kind of ramps that tension back up. I will also say the spiciness level of this book, in my opinion, is higher. I gotta say, I think it's because Dani herself is so very sexual. Like, Chloe very much enjoyed sex, that's not what I'm trying to say, but Dani's really looking for some in this book. Like, the opening scene is her praying, asking for someone to have sex with her casually. So the vibes are a little different around that, and I think that kind of makes it like a little. Now with Get a Life, Chloe Brown, I also talked about how I was really enjoying the character development aspect of the romance, not just within the romance, but at the characters outside of it, and that continued here. So there's actually a quote in here because Zaph reads romance novels, and I feel like that storyline, that aspect of his character was really like a little love letter to the romance genre. But I just loved this quote, and I feel like it really wrapped up what I was trying to pull out of what I'm enjoying about romances right now. Just book after book about people facing their issues head on and handling it and never ever failing, at least not for good. I felt like my world had already ended unhappily, but every book I read about someone who'd been through the worst and found happiness anyway seemed to say the opposite. Like, my story didn't need to be over if I didn't want it to. Like, if I could just be strong enough to reclaim my emotions and to work through them, maybe I'd be okay again. That's kind of what inspired me to keep going, to make good choices even when feeling better seemed impossible. I just wanted to point out that quote since I already talked about that in this video, but it got me. It got me. So there's one last thing I want to talk about in regards to Take a Hint, Dani Brown, before we close up this vlog, and that is the bisexual representation. Talia Hibbert is really great at including diversity in her books and intersectional identities in her books. I think this is really important to her. She literally has a line about it in her bio. For instance, in Get a Life, Chloe Brown, as we've discussed before, Chloe is both Black and has chronic pain. I didn't speak too much about those identities because they are not identities that I share. So even though I think they were done well from the knowledge that I do not have the first-hand experience that I would need to feel comfortable really deep diving into those aspects of Chloe's identity. However, I am bisexual, so I thought we'd talk about that. First, I want to say that Dani does say on page that she is bisexual. That is the label that she uses. I think it's important to point that out because labels sometimes are used and sometimes they're not, and sometimes it's just shown or said or implied that the character is multigender attracted without giving a specific label. So she does specifically say that she is bisexual. Second, Talia Hibbert handles Dani's bisexuality, her queerness, and other characters' queerness the same way that she handles other aspects of identity like race. And that is to say, she doesn't make a big fucking deal about it. Though that's not to say that she ignores it or how it affects their life. Like, for instance, we know that Zaph being Muslim affected how the media covered his sports career and how they covered his family's accident. We know that being Black affects Dani in the academic arena, although it's really only implied a little bit. But we see it when she talks about how her idol is one of very few Black women professors in the UK. So even though we know Dani is bisexual, it doesn't play the biggest role in the story. I will say that even though Dani ends up with a straight man in this book, she's still bisexual. Let's just clear that up. But we do get sprinklings of Dani's past relationships, some of which have been with women. So for instance, at the beginning of this book, Dani has just gotten out of a friends with benefits arrangement with a woman named Jo, who is also an academic who works in the same building at her university that she and Zaf work in. We know that her and Jo used to be good friends. They decided to be friends with benefits. Jo developed feelings that Dani did not reciprocate, and the relationship went downhill from there. Now, while Jo doesn't show up in the book a ton, she is in here a few times, and Dani does talk about that relationship and how she feels about it, and I thought those complex feelings were handled really well, and I'm glad that we got both sides of the representation, even though we don't need it to show that Dani is bisexual, and even though people who have only dated one gender are still bisexual if they identify as such. And it was nice how other characters, when they talked about relationships with her, just incorporated that in. Like her grandma's talking to her and she's like, oh, are you gonna find a nice boy or a girl or other person to settle down with? And that like casual reminder was really nice. I also liked that at the beginning of the book, when Zaf is kind of crushing on Dani, he knows that she had a thing with Jo, and so he knows that there's a probability that she might be gay, but he doesn't automatically assume. Like, he knows that bisexual people exist and that that's still a possibility, and so he doesn't assume one way or the other, and I really thought that was refreshing. So I would say I really enjoyed the bisexual representation in this book, even though it wasn't a big deal. That's all I have to say about Take a Hint, Dani Brown. Reminder that I will be continuing this reading theme of romances by Black authors next week in a new vlog. Thanks for joining me on this journey. Like this video if I made you smile, and if you're up to it, comment something that made you happy today, yesterday, or even just this week. I would love to celebrate it with you. That's the end, friends. Sending you off with love. Goodbye!